announced a new law that could put paedophiles in prison for up to 2 years if they groom children into sending them sexually explicit selfies. He's also announced the creation of a new unit involving intelligence services and the National Crime Agency to hunt for abusers who use the so-called dark net to target children.
When it comes to the so-called dark net, the National Security Council that I chair has already made this a security priority. And I can announce today that we've created a new joint team between the National Crime Agency and GCHQ, using all the techniques and expertise we use to track down terrorists, using all those techniques to track down paedophiles as well. This builds on some excellent joint work that's already been done. We're taking another important step. We've seen an increasing and alarming phenomenon of paedophiles contacting children online, over the internet or on their mobile phone. And there can be no grey areas here. If you ask a child to take their clothes off and send you a picture, you are as guilty as if you did that in person. So we're going to change the law. Just as it is illegal to produce and possess images of child abuse, now we're making it illegal for an adult to send a sexual communication to a child. This law will make it clear this is a crime and you will be arrested and persecuted and prosecuted and convicted if you take part in it.
So let's get more then on what the Prime Minister was saying there about the closing of what's been called a selfie loophole. Katie Spencer is at the screen for us with more details.
The selfie loophole involves apps like Instagram and Snapchat. Now, with Instagram, as soon as a picture is posted, anyone can talk about it and message the person who has posted the picture. Now, behind us we've got the Sky News Instagram picture of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and you can see just at the bottom, if I bring one up, a number of comments are on there, and it's easy enough for anyone from any walk of life to make a comment. Another area, Snapchat, it's an area where it's very easy for people to take pictures and perhaps not realise the consequences of what they're doing online. So this is what you basically do. If I've got Snapchat up here, you snap a picture. This is my view. Now I can write a comment online, and the idea is basically it's to send it to a friend. It's only supposed to last a few seconds, but we now know that there are ways to get around that. So if I show you a message that has been sent to me, this is Richard Suchet, one of our reporters, all I need to do is take a screenshot of that, and that's something that's supposed to have just lasted a few seconds, but now I've got a copy of it forever. And today's changes are all about pursuing paedophiles online. The Prime Minister is saying that if you ask a child to take a sexually explicit picture, it's as bad as taking it in person. You will be arrested and you will be prosecuted.
Thank you. Child abuse. So very interesting to get your views on these plans. Changes being proposed today that will create an offence to stop people soliciting photos from children, explicit sexual photos from children online or via mobiles. Something that you welcome?
Anything that's put into place to assist and protect children, everybody's going to welcome. The things that I draw from this are other comments that the Prime Minister has said. One, he now accepts that the epidemic scale of the issue of online abuse images of children. And then you've also got the fact that he's also mentioned today about the fact that every image is a crime. So therefore it should be looked at and should be investigated. So yes, I welcome anything that's put into place to assist with the investigation, but we've got to remember that we've actually got a lot of legislation in place at the moment that allows law enforcement officers to actually become very proactive and investigate these crimes. Because the other side to this is this use of the expression dark net, which gives the impression that it's an area where nobody can get into unless you're one of these individuals. That actually isn't the case. The vast majority of the sharing, the downloading and distribution of decent images of children is done on the ClearNet in file sharing systems, and this is something that's been able to be policed by all UK police forces for a number of years since legislation came in 2003.
So when the Prime Minister announces this joint unit between GCHQ and the National Crime Agency to try and track those paedophiles that are working on this so-called dark net, these more hidden parts of the internet, and if you like, you think that's unnecessary?
Not unnecessary, it's good to have, but it's not something that the police have needed. They've actually had the ability and the know-how and expertise and the software to identify individuals for a number of years. Operation Notarise identified and arrested 660, but nearly 30,000 were identified in Operation Notorious. So what's happening about those ones?
So you think more resources are needed in the areas where they're already trying to tackle child abuse?
I think, unfortunately, it comes back down to funding. The fact that we now accept, and the Prime Minister now accepts, the epidemic scale of the issue, and the fact that every single image is a crime scene where a child is being abused, then funding should be put in to allow UK police forces to become far more proactive with the current legislation they've got, the current expertise and software, as well as putting this new legislation into place. If the police become far more proactive, then they could do far more work to save more children.
How important, though, do you think this is in raising awareness generally of it being an issue? I mean, a lot of young people, part of their lives now is to take selfies, to take pictures of each other and to send them to each other. This is normal behaviour for them. Is there enough understanding amongst young people about the risks that could be involved in doing that?
It's a very good point, because what's coming over this is the difference between the actual images, because these are self-generated images that are appearing on the internet, whether through social media or whether through the likes of Twitter, because these are the other areas where images can be seen. Also, the fact of the difference between devices, the Android and the Apple. Why does an image that through Snapchat get saved? How does it end up on Google Images? The awareness that when you put in through educators and through to parents and into obviously our young children is the fact that they should now must really think about before they take a picture, not before they post a picture, but before they take a picture, because they do not know where it's going to end up, because the amount of apps that allow the picture just to disappear off into somebody else's device.
So where then should our focus be now if we're going to tackle what you say is a growing problem?
Certainly it has the three strands here. You've got law enforcement, you've got industry and you've got education. Everybody has a part to play. It is teamwork. Now, without a doubt, I welcome anything that's put into place, but it's not about the darknet, it's not about the NCA, it's not just about GCHQ, it's about putting funding into the UK police forces to allow them to be proactive, and also more money and also more work into schools to get the information out to young users about the dangers of posting self-generated images.
Jonathan Taylor, very interesting to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Blocked and suspect sites taken down. But police budgets are under pressure. There's a shortage of trained officers. Critics say online abuse can't be stopped by technology alone. Angus Crawford, BBC News. Access to any kind of obscene content, identifying illegal images out there and removing them, and then closing down on the predators and arresting them. It's very important that one thing we make clear about the law that you talked about at the beginning of this piece, this proposal, it was proposed by Labour several weeks ago. The government has now said, yeah, we'll go with that. But the key thing about it is it will criminalise adults, those 18 or over, sending sexual messages, so not images, that's already against the law, sexual messages to those under 16. It's a very specific loophole which is being closed.
Angus, what's been the reaction from child protection charities?
Well, it's really interesting. The NSPCC has been campaigning for this particular law change for some time. It's very, very pleased. Obviously thinks it's a major step forward. What's interesting, though, is I've spoken to several former child protection officers, several people who were at the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre before. They say, yes, again, great news about this law, but the problem is the law as it is isn't being used effectively at the moment, because frontline officers are understaffed, under-resourced, and they're really feeling the pinch. Imagine on an operation, there are more than 1 million images on a computer, how long it takes to go through those, to find the victims and to get a prosecution. But the other thing that's been going on today is really about what the tech companies are doing. You said there were more than 20 here today, the Googles, the Microsofts. They were talking about the fact that they are now blocking many URLs, many websites. They are blocking images. They are preventing children accessing these things, and they're trying to go further. There are still gaps. For example, in this country, if you type in a banned URL, the internet service provider, the person who provides your internet service, the wiring, will block that, not the Googles, not the Microsoft. So they, Google, Microsoft, have got to start working on, they themselves, blocking these illegal URLs. So there's still much more to do, but many people in this area are saying this is a huge step forward. It's getting this out into the open, and again, it's about having a global response to a global problem.
Yeah, there's no point discussing a massive issue like this if you haven't got the big players there, Angus, and that's the good news about that. You talked about that loophole about the requesting of images of children. I suppose if you're saying how much will actually get done, you could point at the fact that a lot of the activity that's being discussed is already illegal.
This is part of the issue which was raised today. And it's a very important step, what the Prime Minister announced, but it's only a small part of a much wider picture. And yes, you're quite right. If you as an adult, or as anyone, send an image of child sexual abuse to anyone via the internet, that is a crime. If you're an adult and you send it to a child now, that is a crime. If you are both children and you send each other sexualised messages, that is not a crime. The new law deliberately targets predatory paedophiles who will send messages by text, whether it's either on phones or on tablets or by email or in peer-to-peer or any of those forum. They send a sexualised text message requesting that a child remove their clothing, then that is now a criminal offence where it wasn't. And having spoken to a former frontline officer today, they say, brilliant, that's a loophole that needs closing, but it is a small area of a much bigger problem, and resources in terms of policing are the key issue.
Angus, thanks for talking to us on 5 Live. That's Angus Crawford, who's at the summit in London today.
Just coming up to 1:15, you're listening to Afternoon Edition on 5 Live.